farmers in the fields, to the tallest of the towers that fall and rise. 1776, your name's upon the list of all the ones who gave until they died. Rise to the top of the world, America, America, don't you cry.
I'm Garridy Hamilton, and this is Pursuit of Truth. Now, one of the biggest stories in the news lately certainly has been the giant revolt in our country against law enforcement. That cops everywhere are fearing for their lives because they're afraid that while they're in the middle of their job, someone's going to come and potentially harm them. A lot of this is due to unjust killings that people are saying, well, it's okay to be violent against cops, but it's not okay for cops to be violent enforcing the law. Now, there are some unjust murders that happen, and none of these are to be waved off, but nevertheless, the vast majority of police officers are respectable men and women that want to protect our nation's citizens. The large majority, the vast majority of cops are not anti-black. Here's what the evidence shows. In 2015, cops shot and killed 494 white people and 258 black people. That's almost double. Now, of those people that were killed, 38 were unarmed, and 188 were carrying a deadly weapon. So it can't be argued that the police are looking for unarmed people to victimize. Now, of those 38 unarmed African Americans, 15 were in the process of an attack. Now, of the other 23 people that were not in the process of an attack and were unarmed and were African American, that is 23 out of 258. I don't know if you can call that systematic racism. We can't condemn every single law enforcement officer, the whole law enforcement system in general, because of potentially 23 unjust killings. Now, these numbers were put out by the liberal Washington Post. And if a liberal website, a liberal news source, is willing to put out this information, this is something that should be considered. Racism is indeed wrong, and it'll always be a problem in this country. But the evidence clearly suggests that the vast majority of police officers are not racist people. Now, moving on to the conventions here, which have also been major news sources over the past few days, I think that the Republican convention was a success regarding independent voters and drawing them to the Republican Party. I think that the Republicans exited Cleveland better than they entered it. Because I think a lot of the things that Donald Trump said, not necessarily at all the things he said were completely conservative. Indeed, some of the things that his family even was arguing for him were a little bit liberal. Nevertheless, I think that it's going to draw voters to the Republican Party. Now, I'm a Ted Cruz supporter, and I will be supporting Donald Trump in the 2016 election. I'm not endorsing him, however, and neither was Cruz. Now, you can have a union of the party and the candidates without being an endorsement. Cruz spoke to vote for constitutionalists. And, a lot of people are accusing him, for not endorsing Trump. This is what he said. Vote for people up and down the ballots that will defend the Constitution. And that is what our party should vote for. Not Trump, but the Constitution and the principles that come with it. Now, if standing for the Constitution means voting for Trump, then we should vote for him. And if it means voting for an independent, then being constitutional, we should vote for them. The convention was filled with great speeches. I personally favored Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, and Mike Pence's speech. They all had some different effects on me. Ben Carson had a bold speech that was truthful. It was not politically correct, but it was very truthful. Here's an excerpt from his speech.
Now, interestingly enough, let me tell you something about Saul Alinsky. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. On the dedication page, it acknowledges Lucifer, the original radical who gained his own kingdom. Now think about that. This is a nation where our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights that come from our Creator. This is a nation where our Pledge of Allegiance says we are one nation under God. This is a nation. This is a nation where every coin in our pocket and every bill in our wallet says, "In God we trust." So are we willing to elect someone as president who has as their role model somebody who acknowledges Lucifer? And I say now is the time for us to rise up and take America back.
And he's certainly bringing a conservative voice to Trump's campaign. Now, Cruz spoke pretty much like he was the candidate nominated. He always speaks great, and I thought he especially did good at the convention. And he didn't give in to establishment tactics of abandoning everything that he said and jumping on the Trump train. He's obviously still supporting Trump, but he's not endorsing him. There is a difference. I didn't formally make my decision to support Donald Trump in the election until today. I was still considering independence. Now, it's not an endorsement. I endorse principles, and at the moment, I believe Trump is the best shot at having a stronger America than it has been. He's certainly better than Hillary Clinton. Now, to me, Mike Pence's speech made Trump's campaign seem more conservative. I think Mike Pence himself is more conservative. I didn't really even get a chance to have him to hear him much until the speech, and I think he did very well. And it was a deciding factor in my decision to support Trump. Now, we must not let America be ideologically changed from the free nation that it is. With all these conventions happening and ideas being thrown around, we can't abandon the roots that America is from. And in order to do this, we must elect wise leaders who love God, love America, and love the Constitution. That's what's going to put our country back on track. And we must not let our military and our law enforcement be diminished. Taking away a law enforcement agency from a city is like taking away a military from a nation. We should stop letting cops fear for their lives as they keep our nation safe. We can't allow it. Likewise, our military should be supported in this time of trial in the world. We need to stop being afraid of Islamic radicals. Their power is none when we stand up for what is right and good. And if God is for our nation, who can be against our nation? That is why it is time to stand together and not be afraid to let freedom reign. It is time to tell anti-Americans who want to take our freedom and liberty, don't tread on we. I'm Garridy Hamilton, and this is Pursuit of Truth.